So today in this video I'm going to talk about how to print this type of a pattern. Alright, so in the earlier video we printed out a standard pattern where the number of rows and number of columns created a sort of a rectangle or a square. Alright, so if you specified the same number for rows and columns, you got a square, but if you change the numbers around, you got a rectangle depending on the shape that you wanted. Alright, now here what we're going to do is we're going to upgrade that a bit, and instead of printing out a square or rectangle, we're going to print a pattern. Alright, where you can have a certain number of rows, but each row has one more star than the earlier row. Alright, so the same concept where you have outer loop. Okay, where we have outer loop, and the outer loop is for the rows and the inner loop is for the columns. Alright, now what do you notice here? Alright, now when the outer loop, okay, you start off with 0, okay, so you start off with 1 and 1. Alright, but subsequently when the okay, so maybe we instead of starting from 1, we say starting from 0, because we are specifying the index, alright, based on 0, correct? When you put a range, by default it starts from 0. Alright, so initially 0, okay, so let me put this as rows, and this is column. Alright, so initially row as 1 star, column as 1 star. Alright, now the next time when row is 1, column has 2 stars. Okay, when row is 2, column has 3 stars. When row is 4, column has 5 stars. So what does that tell you? That means that your column, the number of stars you print in the column, always has one more, okay, has one more than the row count, correct? One more than the row count. Now how can I code this? Alright, now there are many different ways of coding this. Okay, there are many different ways of coding this. It all depends on how you think and how you want to write the code. What I'm going to do is I'm going to show you one way of doing it. So I'm going to say for row in range, let's say 5, okay, for columns in range, alright, I'm going to say row plus 1. Alright, print the asterisk again followed by n with a space, and once I finish each particular row, I print a new line. Now let me explain this code first. Let me explain this code before we run it. Alright, so when for rows in range 5, which means I go from 0, 1, 2, 3 and 4. Okay. Okay, so here this is supposed to be row 3, 0, 1, 2 and 3. Alright, and this is supposed to be yeah, so I made a typo here. Alright, so earlier on I was explaining about this idea, correct, where we say that for each row, alright, for each row the number of stars that you print is always one more in terms of the row number. Alright, so when row is 1, I print 2 stars. When row is 2, I print 3 stars. When row is 3, I print 4 stars, and so on. Okay, so if I put a range of 5, that means I will print from 0 to 4, and when I hit 4, I must print 5 stars. Okay, so this would be 5. Alright, now, so for row in range 5, for columns in range row plus 1. So let's try to understand. Let's try to understand how this thing is going to work. So first row is 0, correct? And columns is from 0 for range 1. Now when I put range 1, what does that mean? Range 1 means I start from 0 and I go until 1 less than this number, which is 1 less than 1 is 0. So it's only from 0 to 0. So I will only stay with one print. Alright, so I'll print 1 star and then I'll print the line and then I'll go back to the next iteration of the outer loop. So row will become 1. When row become 1, what does column become? Row plus 1. Row plus 1 will become 2, which means I will go and print from 0 and 1. So let's look at the count. Earlier on, 0 to 0 means my count is only 1. I print 1 star. 0 to 1 means I print 2 stars. Correct? Then the next iteration, row will become 2. So column, row plus 1 means column will go with a value of 3, which means 0, 1 and 2. And that means I print 3 stars. Okay, so you can see that using this approach, you are able to print this star pattern quite easily. Alright, so this is one of the techniques of programming where you try to see some pattern in the numbers. Okay, you try to see some pattern in the numbers to see how you can make use of that pattern to write more efficient code. Okay, so again, this is just one solution. You could have come up with any other solution that still works just as well in terms of the output. Alright, so let me just show you. So if I run this, you see that I get the pattern that I want. If I change this number, okay, if I change this number, then it automatically scales up, alright, according to the number that I put here. Alright, so the basic idea is I'm always printing 1 star more, alright, in terms of the columns as compared to the row number. Alright, so that is the idea, and I hope that now you get a better understanding, correct, how I can use nested for loops for this application. Alright, thank you for watching, alright, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.